Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most disturbing discoveries in celebs' ancestry. For this list, we'll only be discussing the US version of Who Do You Think You Are?
So, probably have to start there.
Number 20, Sarah Jessica Parker.
They have grounded suspicion that the said Elwell, Dyke, and Rowe have wickedly and feloniously committed sundry acts of witchcraft. Unbelievable.
When Hocus Pocus star Sarah Jessica Parker was featured on Who Do You Think You Are's first episode, she discovered her ancestors' connection to one of America's darkest historical events. In November 1692, her maternal 10th great-grandmother, Esther Dutch Elwell, along with Abigail Rowe and Rebecca Dyke, were arrested and accused of witchcraft. During the Salem witch trials, hundreds of innocent people were convicted and executed based on hearsay. However, the three women never faced a judge in court, since the use of spectral evidence was abolished just a month before. Given Parker's discoveries, maybe it was fated that Esther's descendant would one day also be a witch. Well, on the silver screen at least.
Come, little children, I'll take thee away.
Number 19, Sean Hayes.
Right there on page 1. January 30 received a sentence. So 3 counts of assault, and this says fine, bail, or hard labor. HL. Hard labor. Yeah.
Emmy-winning actor-comedian Sean Hayes has opened up about his estranged father Ronald, who struggled with substance use and left the family. In researching his ancestry, he found that his grandfather, William Hayes, had similar hardships and abandoned his wife and children. In 1947, Ronald and his siblings were sent to an orphanage, 4 years before William died alone in a hospital. The Illinois native traveled to Ireland to see the courthouse where his relatives, unfortunately, spent a significant amount of time. Before William's father, Patrick Hayes Jr., emigrated to America, he served prison time for assault. His father, Patrick Hayes Sr., had an extensive criminal record and even took his son to court. Fortunately, it seems like Sean broke the Hayes men's generational cycle of violence and abandonment.
Patrick Sr. starts dealing with it by drinking. And that, of course, affects everything. That affects all his kids, including Patrick Jr.
Number 18, Kim Cattrall.
So he left in 38. Within a year, he was remarried. That I find I'm quite angry about that.
Sex and the City alum Kim Cattrall traced her ancestry with a goal in mind: solve the mysterious disappearance of her grandfather, George Baugh. One day in 1938, he left his wife and 3 daughters, never to be seen again. They were soon impoverished like so many others in Liverpool, England at the time. When Cattrall finds Baugh's sisters, they tell her that he abandoned them as well. Just a year after walking out on his family, Baugh married another woman and had 4 more children. In one of the series' most emotional moments, Cattrall tells her mother and aunts about their dad starting another family while his first one struggled. It's nothing short of heart-wrenching.
He was married on the 5th of August, 1939.
Oh my goodness, he didn't wait too long, did he?
No.
Number 17, Blair Underwood.
Pestiferous darky? Dan, pestiferous darky?
They're not speaking kindly.
That's right.
At all.
All right. It will be remembered that this pestiferous darky, who claims to be the second Jesus.
Knowing very little about his mother's ancestry inspired actor Blair Underwood to research his maternal family tree. He discovered his 3 times great-grandfather, Sonny Early, had a neighbor accusing him of stealing his cow and, quote, murderous assault in 1876. Newspapers stated Sonny was a, quote, lunatic who claimed to be the second coming of Jesus. Later in the episode, Underwood learns he was likely a, quote, conjurer, and gets context for the cow incident, which proved Sonny was defending his food source and livelihood.
I see an image of Sonny emerging very much along the lines of a conjurer.
A what?
A conjurer. When you look at them, they are strikingly eclectic and eccentric in their appearance.
He was shot in the face, but lived. In 1884, another violent confrontation ended with him getting shot 3 times and still miraculously surviving. The reason why Sonny was admitted to Central State Hospital in 1900 remains a mystery, but Underwood admires his ancestors' spirituality and determination to survive.
Sonny is, from what I see, is a man who could not be broken. I'll never know for sure why Sonny ended up in a mental hospital, but he was shot 4 times defending his rights and was clearly never going to give up. So, for his white neighbors, maybe the easiest way to get rid of him was to commit him to a mental hospital.
Number 16, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Helen dies July 20th, 1912, and she's born August in 1912. So my great-grandmother was pregnant when her older daughter died.
Gwyneth Paltrow appeared on Who Do You Think You Are to discover more about her paternal ancestry, starting with her grandfather Buster. Her genealogical journey led to his mother, Ida Edith Hyman, a woman with a reputation for neglecting her children. But Paltrow learns the devastating reason she wasn't a more caring mother. In 1897, Ida lost her mother and brother within months of each other, which, of course, negatively affected her studies at Hunter College. A year later, she was discharged from the school. In 1912, her young daughter Helen died in a horrific wagon accident. Just a month before she gave birth to her daughter Marion, Paltrow's great-grandmother experienced tragedy after tragedy, and unfortunately, her living children never knew what she was going through.
I wish that I could share this information with my grandfather. He didn't have compassion for her at all, and maybe this would have changed that.
Number 15, Noah Wyle.
I left home to end my life because I could not bear the thought of committing the deed under my dear loved one's eyes. May God, who rules the universe, forgive as far as possible my act. John H. Mills.
As a Civil War buff, Noah Wyle was eager to find out if any of his ancestors served. He excitedly discovered that his maternal great-great-great-grandfather, John Henry Mills, voluntarily enlisted and fought in the infamous Battle of Shiloh, debunking the family rumor that he paid someone to take his place. But the journey took a dark turn when Wyle learned how and why his life ended. To avoid a steep insurance premium, Mills took his own life in an effort to save his 5 children and their mother the shame of not being able to afford it. Hearing about your ancestors' hardships can be painful, but Wyle also got emotional for a different reason, as he read his obituary that described the town's overwhelming love for Mills.
I found myself being very emotionally affected by reading that. And to hear how beloved he was, that they shut the town shops and they tolled the church bell during his funeral procession. That kind of public outpouring of grief moved me.
Number 14, John Stamos.
Grandfather was what, 38, something like that? And then my great-grandmother, Georgita, was 27, 28?
She would have been, yeah, late 20s.
My grandfather was born in 1904, so he was 1 then.
Yes.
So he never had a father.
Never had a father.
That to me is heartbreaking.
Greek-American actor-musician John Stamos returned to his family's homeland, hoping to learn more about his paternal ancestors. When visiting the Arcadian village of Kakouri, he found that his great-grandfather, Vasilios Stamatopoulos, died in 1905 at the hands of Yannis Koliopoulos, aka Judas, after a long-standing feud. This was just a year after his son John, Stamos' grandfather, was born. And despite his mother Georgita still living, John was considered an orphan.
This is fascinating. I mean, a man was murdered in the streets. I mean, like, visualize that town square or wherever it happened. Maybe they were having some sort of standoff.
Koliopoulos disappeared after the killing, delaying a trial for 10 years. With the statute of limitations approaching, the trial took place on November 16, 1915, when the still absent defendant was found guilty of, quote, not premeditated manslaughter, and sentenced, quote, in absentia to 15 years in prison. John Stamos went looking for information and found a true Greek tragedy.
It's the gods. The gods are crying for my Greek tragic story.
Number 13, Cynthia Nixon.
He told his wife to get up and get breakfast for himself and her 2 children, and then to commence saying her prayers, for she should die, he swore, before sunset.
When actor-activist Cynthia Nixon looked into her paternal ancestry, she found a relative with a criminal past. Her great-great-great-grandmother, Martha Kernet, murdered her abusive husband, Noah Casto, with an axe in 1843. But as she read more newspapers, Nixon realized that she killed him after he threatened her life. Martha wasn't convicted of murder, but was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter and sent to the Missouri State Penitentiary. However, in December 1844, she was pardoned after serving almost 2 of her 5-year sentence, during which time she had a daughter. Finding a killer in your lineage would shock anyone, but Nixon respected her ancestors' significant impact on prison reform.
She made history, certainly never in a way that she would have chosen to make it, but she did make history nonetheless, and she did start a change that affected incarcerated women all over the United States.
Number 12, Rashida Jones.
When Ilya told me that they were all killed, I was so shocked. When your family members lived in a town and left a town, and then later everybody was taken down, it's shocking.
As the daughter of Quincy Jones and actress Peggy Lipton, actress-filmmaker Rashida Jones researched her African-American and Jewish ancestries, meaning both would reveal some painful truths. Focusing on her maternal ancestors, she follows the life of her grandmother Rita Rosenberg, who at a young age left Ireland for New York City in 1926, where she reinvented herself. Jones travels to both places, and when her search takes her back 6 generations, she goes to Latvia, the birthplace of her great-great-grandfather Benjamin Benson. Sadly, all of her ancestors lost their lives during the Holocaust in 1941, except for Benson's father, who went to England to evade the draft. Jones was prepared for the dark historical facts, but still found herself stunned at the brutality of it all.
It's heavy and it's a lot, but these are things that I wanted to know. I wanted to really have some closure about, what happened with our family.
Number 11, Rita Wilson.
This is the report of the guard who was on the spot informing the state security officer on your father's escape.
Oh my God.
For Rita Wilson, her father's untold story was a source of grief and curiosity, and 2 years after his passing, the actress-singer traced his roots overseas. In the States, her father's name was Alan, though in his home country of Greece, he was born Hasan Halilov Ibrahimov. From being drafted into the Bulgarian military to his harrowing escape from a labor camp, Wilson realized why he never spoke about his past. She also learns that his first wife, Alice, died days after giving birth to their son, Emil, who tragically passed just months later.
My dad was a lover of freedom. For his first very short time in Bulgaria, he had a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and not by anything that was in his control. Now I'm seeing him as a hero in my eyes.
While the eye-opening experience was incredibly emotional, Wilson finally knew her father's story. And as a silver lining, she had the chance to visit Hasan's 96-year-old half-brother Ferhat.
He lived to 96, so he could wait. I'm very, very glad.
Number 10, Courteney Cox. Friends star Courteney Cox set out to trace her mother's English lineage. She doesn't expect any spectacular revelations, so she's surprised to find royal roots, including her 26 times great-grandfather William the Conqueror.
So he's the reason why England is here? You conquered it from France.
Yeah.
Okay. This is pretty intense.
Another one of Cox's ancestors is her 18 times great-grandfather Thomas de Berkeley. The English barons' Gloucestershire home of Berkeley Castle served as a prison for the abdicated King Edward II in 1327. This is also where he died, and while some accounts credit natural causes, others believed he was killed.
They said late king was shut up in a closed chamber, but that not sufficing to hasten his death.
The historian shared the rumors detailing Edward's gruesome death, though it's believed that he was ultimately murdered via suffocation. Berkeley and Cox's 19 times great-grandfather Roger Mortimer was put on trial. The former was acquitted while the latter was executed.
Okay. This is one of the greatest soap operas I've ever heard.
Number 9, Steve Buscemi.
Hi, Ma.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
Like others on this list, actor-filmmaker Steve Buscemi's reason for digging into his genealogy is his mother.
After my mother died, my sister had this made up.
She had it made up because there were so few pictures of her.
There's no yeah.
The Brooklyn native never met his grandmother, Amanda Van Dyne, because she took her life when his mother was very young. In his search, he found that his great-great-grandfather Ralph Montgomery had a rough go of it. By 1860, he switched professions from a dentist to a grocer. Based on a discarded letter, this was also around the time he contemplated ending his own life.
But then, months later, it's found, and not only found, but printed in the newspaper.
In 1861, he became a Union soldier in the Civil War, left his family, and later started a new one. Though Montgomery ultimately died of tuberculosis in 1878, Buscemi theorizes that generations of his family have suffered from depression.
But when I think of the past generations, the things that they went through and that they survived,
it really makes me so much more appreciative of my family.
Number 8, Jason Sudeikis.
Don't know how, don't know where, don't know what happened or, how that affected my gram and obviously my dad.
SNL alum Jason Sudeikis set out to find the mysterious circumstances of his paternal grandfather Stanley's death in 1948. He learned that Stanley married his wife Edna on September 25, 1945, abandoning her the same day, leaving behind his daughter and unborn son Daniel, Jason's father.
So he never even met my dad.
Not according to the court record.
Up to this point.
That's right.
That's heavy duty.
He never supported them financially, and by 1947, they legally separated. Reading the fatal sidewalk accident report, Jason discovered that Stanley was unhoused at the time of his death.
We contacted his wife, and we asked her to attend the inquest, and she stated that she wanted nothing to do with it, that she had been legally separated for 3 years.
His ex-wife and uncle's refusal to be involved suggested that he may have burned too many bridges with his substance use. Going back further, Stanley Sr. also abandoned his family. But the tragic irony is that Stanley Sr.'s father, Joseph, died while working to provide for his family.
I feel it is a form of closure, this journey, to relay the information to my dad.
Number 7, Marissa Tomei. For Marissa Tomei, this foray into genealogical research was intended to uncover the truth about her great-grandfather Francesco Leopoldo Bianchi's death in 1910.
The story is that he was shot in a bar.
The family story was that he was killed because of a misdeed, possibly for having an affair or getting into financial trouble. But as Tomei travels around Tuscany, she finds pieces that make up a different story. In 1911, a man named Terzilio Lazaretsky claimed he was attacked by Bianchi and shot him in self-defense.
Treacherously shot Leopoldo Bianchi, killing him on the spot.
However, it was reported that the bullet entered the back of Bianchi's head. Despite evidence suggesting murder, Lazaretsky was acquitted of voluntary homicide. The animosity between the men stemmed from a business deal gone wrong, not any philandering on Bianchi's part as his family believed.
And now I have much more of a connection to him. I can feel his presence. He's much more, he's alive in my heart and in my mind's eye and in my family again.
Number 6, Megan Mullally. Like fellow actress Marissa Tomei, Megan Mullally grew up hearing stories about her relatives.
My grandfather, my father's father, he was an alcoholic.
Her grandfather was violent towards his sons, behavior that her father would later exhibit himself. Because of his emotional and verbal mistreatment throughout her childhood, Megan prepared to uncover some dark truths about her paternal ancestors.
I still have certain questions on my father's side where the psychological and emotional darkness in my family comes from.
Through newspapers and court records, she finds that her great-great-grandfather Richard Ira Mullally was charged and convicted of physically abusing his pregnant wife Elizabeth in 1859. After his death, Elizabeth married her second husband, James Venable, with whom she endured similar mistreatment. Even though Megan anticipated the outcome, she's still saddened to learn about the troubling history of substance use disorders and violence involving the men on her father's side.
That makes me really sad.
Number 5, Chelsea Handler.
My father, I guess, made a deal with my mother when they had children that they were going to be raised Jewish.
Comedian author Chelsea Handler was raised Jewish, although her mother Rita was Mormon. Rita was born in Germany and lived there until her father Karl Stoker, a German soldier in World War II, brought the family to the United States.
He was a Nazi enthusiast, and this is where my grandfather worked.
Exactly.
So that makes my grandfather what?
The big mystery was where Grandpa Karl's loyalties lay, and Handler dreaded he might have had ties to the Nazis. In Germany, she tried to gauge his enthusiasm through his military records, which showed that he was drafted and seemingly lacked ambition to advance rank. But one of the saddest parts of the episode sees Handler reading her grandmother Elizabeth's tragic account of life in post-World War I Germany. She details the grim conditions, unemployment, extreme poverty, and scarcity of food.
Oh yes, I can see my mother's head vividly when she bent her head over us, her tears dropping onto our cheeks when we asked for a small piece of bread, saying, "Children, I don't have anything."
Number 4, Jessie Tyler Ferguson.
The moment my grandmother passed away, you don't have that person to talk to get those personal stories from.
Modern Family star Jessie Tyler Ferguson comes from a line of Jessies, including his paternal grandmother, whom he was named after. She was named after her father, Jesse Wheat Uppercue, a lawyer who was also seemingly a career criminal. The first piece of information Ferguson finds on his great-grandfather is an article about the 1872 death of Baltimore resident Amelia Wheat, Uppercue's elderly aunt.
Okay, well, this got juicy really fast.
He was arrested as a murder suspect, but made it through 2 trials without a guilty verdict. Throughout his life, J.W. moved around the country, getting into more trouble, including 2 arrests for embezzlement, all while going through 3 marriages that all ended in divorce.
Pull it together, Jesse. What happened?
However, Ferguson is happy to hear that the otherwise disappointing relative cared for his 5 children.
But when they divorced, he continued to take care of them as his own. I'm proud of him.
Number 3, Christina Applegate.
I want to know why my grandmother couldn't take care of him. Not just because of her age, there has to be another reason.
Growing up, Christina Applegate didn't know much, if anything, about her paternal grandparents. Sadly, her father, Robert, didn't either. He was raised by his grandparents and only knew of rumors about how and when his mother died. On her genealogical journey, she finds that Lavina Shaw and Paul Applegate, her grandparents, went through a tumultuous divorce and custody battle in the 1940s.
Wait a minute, when did they first separate?
Well, do you want to take a look?
During the legal proceedings, a doctor reported that young Robert appeared to be malnourished, a discovery that visibly upsets Applegate.
And on various dates struck and beat her.
More shocking revelations are Paul's alleged mistreatment of Lavina, as well as her struggles with chronic substance use, which likely contributed to her early death. Though Robert is shocked to learn the details of his mother's life, he finally has some closure.
And I really, really hope with all my heart that at the end of the process, he really sees what a miracle he is.
Number 2, Regina King.
Using Moses' name, I then look for the family in Alabama, since I know that's where Alice lived, and I locate them on the 1900 census.
Looking into her maternal ancestry, Regina King digs deeper into the life of her 2-times great-grandfather Moses Crosby, aka Moses Hughes, an educator and civil rights activist. While living in Alabama in 1868, an altercation with a white man got Moses' name added to the local Ku Klux Klan's blacklist, making him a target in the white community.
It gives permission for white men and women to attack at will those who are listed.
One night, a group of KKK members broke into Moses' home, and though he escaped, his wife Mary Meadow was shot and killed. Within days, he was charged with assault and attempted murder of the white man and received a 2-year sentence.
When we think about all of this, the context of who the jurors were and the fact that this sets the perfect scenario for Moses to be handed a judgment of guilty.
Moses endured many hardships, but King admires his perseverance in the face of racism and injustices.
Moses' entire story is very similar to stories that we're still hearing today.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Lisa Kudrow. Since she was young, actress Lisa Kudrow, executive producer of Who Do You Think You Are, heard tell of Belarusian Jewish family members' devastating lives during the Holocaust.
Most American Jews from Eastern Europe, they have a Holocaust story. There were relatives that were left behind.
In season 1 of the series, she travels to the site of the 1942 Ilya massacre, where 750 to 900 Jewish villagers were killed, including her paternal great-grandmother Mary Mordechovich.
The local Christian population later told us that for many hours they could hear from afar the screams.
Kudrow knew about this horrific time in history and the tragic deaths of her ancestors and countless others. But being in Ilya and reading about the detailed atrocities that were committed decades before, she couldn't help but get emotional.
You make people afraid enough of something completely manufactured, and you can drive them to become murderers, cold-blooded murderers.
Which reveal did you think was the darkest? Have you uncovered anything shocking in your family's history? Let us know in the comments below.